Paltrocast.
I have to say, Bob, behind you is the most impressive memorabilia collection I've ever seen in an interview that I've done. Because I see the ABA ball, I see the gold records, et cetera, et cetera. How long do you have to spend dusting?
Hey man, listen, it's just like one of those I don't even know what to say about this. This room is just like this is my motivation room. And it's like it's a room that is like it's my life. It's my life from my 100-year-old grandmom to my days of watching Julius Irving at the Nassau Coliseum. You know what I'm
Oh,
saying?
wait a
Uh
second. You just said
Dolomite.
Nassau Coliseum. I have to rudely interrupt you. You're a Long Island guy?
No, I'm from Jersey, but my dad and I used to go over to see the Nets play all the time. And you know, my life is hey, Darren, man. When my documentary and my book, you know, we're working on all of that because it needs to be it needs to happen. Because like Dolomite sent me this bobblehead, you know. And next thing I know, Eddie Murphy's playing my man Rudy in a film. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, you can't make this up.
Eddie Murphy from the same town as Julius Irving.
How about that, Roosevelt? Huh?
Roosevelt, I
So
think
you're from Long Island. So you're from Long Island.
I'm from Long Island. Don't hold that against me. I mean, what can you do?
No, you know
I'm
what you
from
were
here.
supposed to say. You know what you were supposed to say.
What was I supposed to say?
Yeah, boy.
Also from Roosevelt.
There
Yes.
you go.
He's been a guest on this show. I love me some Flav, but we're not talking about Roosevelt. We're here to talk about the legend, Bob Sumner. Now, Bob, so many things that you've produced that I watch religiously.
Wow.
Without Def Comedy Jam, what would the movies look like? We wouldn't have Rush Hour, we wouldn't have Chappelle's Show, et cetera, et cetera. So credit goes to you. It's a shame that they don't have your name first. They always put Russell Simmons's name first, but I assume you've made peace with that.
I mean, that's interesting to hear you say all of that. I mean, everybody, hey, Darren, it's hard for me. Like when I hear people say you should, it's so many firsts with me. It's not just, this is the only first that people get to really see
Mhm.
because of how many people I've touched. But
Right.
to make a, I mean, to be honest with you, I was like this in kindergarten, man. You know what I mean? I wasn't even in like my elementary school had went from kindergarten to sixth grade. And then I had to move to another school for seventh grade before I went to the high school at eighth, right? But we did it a little different with my parents. My parents moved me out of the elementary school during the first month of sixth grade so I
Mhm.
could prepare myself to go to a whole nother school, which was completely different than the school I went to in the hood, so to speak. You know what I mean? And I actually, when I was in that elementary school in fifth grade, I got an opportunity to play the lead role in the school play, which should have went to a sixth grader. But I was always ahead of my time. And I
Sure.
got to play Charlie Brown and You're a Good Man, Charlie Brown,
Okay,
right?
so
And,
let me
and that
pause
was
you
the
right
beginning.
there.
That was the beginning. That's when you
Charlie
say,
Brown,
uh-huh.
another rapper from Roosevelt, Long Island.
Well, that's the other Charlie.
It always comes back to
But
Roosevelt with you.
but again, they always roll with Rush too. Everybody we talked about been rolling with Rush. You know what I'm saying? And we was just I've been able to like put it this way. When you say, you know, my name should have been, I just needed my name to be in the when I graduated from Seton Hall University, I was looking for a way to get into the business besides being born into the business. Like I got I guess inspired by my uncle being in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. You know what I'm saying? when we talk about the beginnings, my mom did the royalties for Sam Cooke and Elvis Presley at RCA Records. So that was my life as a toddler. You know what I'm saying? As a kid. And then it came into this situation where I was ready to
Right.
do whatever I was going to do, but I had to get an opportunity from somewhere to be able to now say what you just said about David and Bernie and Tucker and everybody. It's a beautiful thing. Appreciate you.
To be clear, your uncle in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame is not Gordon Sumner from the Police.
Oh no, it's not Sting. Sting is my cousin. Sting's my cousin by last name. But my uncle is Tony Williams, who was the lead singer for the Platters.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
And then your cousin by first name is not Sumner Redstone.
No, it's not Sumner Redstone, but Sumner Redstone is someone who I've paid attention to for a long, long time. And actually, one of my Def Jam family, Kev Mitchell, was really cool with Sumner's daughter.
Sherry Redstone.
Sherry, exactly. And I do have someone else in like I said, a lot of inspirations has happened for me. And when I was in ninth grade, my dad had remarried, and his brother-in-law is Willie Randolph.
Oh.
Yeah. So wow. I spent a lot of time over at Yankee Stadium, even though I'm sure you're a Mets fan, but it's all good. I mean, and the reason I say that is because, Willie managed the Mets for a minute, and that's a whole nother story.
Okay? Yeah, it's very easy to cheer on the Yankees. Just like it's easy to cheer on Walmart or McDonald's. Sometimes you got to go for the underdog, and they're going to lose, they're going to blow it, but long term, it's a pride thing. But we're not talking about the Mets. We're not talking about Roosevelt. We're talking about Bob Sumner. That's what we're here to talk about. And
I love sports, though, man.
We can go back there, but I think it's awesome that the number of shows that you've created and or produced has never slowed down. You're not one person who just rests on their laurels. I mean, rests on like, hey, I did that. So a lot of stuff you've done with the Laugh Mob team. When did all that start?
Well, what really happened was I sat back to see who was going to be able to do pretty much there's a formula that I have. And again, as we've been speaking on sports, I equate what I do to sports. Like right now, we're preparing for the Union Time to Laugh series down in DC. So I'm looking to lay it out, get the audience engaged to what the magic of what I do is. I used to do something down there at the National Harbor about a little over 10 years ago when they was first building the MGM and all that down there. And I saw, and even just most recently, I'm in this documentary, The Mecca of Comedy, by a guy named Parrish Smith, who's not from EPMD, by the way, but by a guy, but I've always had that thing for DC comedy, So I've gotten this opportunity through the Union Oyster House, Union Films, and DC Film and TV to come down there and do what I do, and actually take it. And I like to think I'm taking a page out of another Hall of Fame, Rock and Roll Hall of Famer, just inducted, Don Cornelius from Soul Train. Don Cornelius used Chicago, a little studio in Chicago, as an incubator to develop all this great talent and everything. And then voila, Hollywood called. I'm pretty much, with what I do at the Apollo and now what I'm getting ready to do over here, I'm tied into that same situation where now I could take the rising stars, the next generation of Chappelle's and Tommy Davidson's and
Alonzo Hamburger Joneses.
Well, the ones out. No, I'm talking about the ones out of the DC area. You're funny. Are you a stand-up?
No, man. I'm talking to a guy that finds All the
You're
great stand-ups.
you're quick with it though, man. You're like, I could see that you have something here. You know, I
Well,
pay attention to talent all over the place. Trust and believe me. But that's why I'm able to do this and have to continue because again, there was once a Dr. J, as we both
yeah,
know.
yeah, yeah.
Then it was like, can there ever be another Dr. J? Here comes Michael Jordan. You know what I mean? Then can there be another Michael Jordan? You hear the comparisons to Kobe, to Bean, right? And then here's LeBron. So what makes you think the same thing doesn't happen with stand-up?
Oh,
It's, you
oh, yeah.
know,
Well, let me give you a compliment here, rudely interrupt you, and give you a
go ahead.
compliment to balance
Mhm.
it out right here.
Yeah.
When you helped make Def Comedy Jam happen, that was after the comedy boom of the 80s. In other words, when you gave birth to all that, everyone thought that comedy was dead.
Isn't
Then,
that something?
yeah, so you saw an undervalued property or industry and you did that. Then we saw stand up dive again somewhere late 90s when everyone was getting their developmental deals, but then you kind of knew to hold on. So in other words, you've seen about 3 or 4 comedy booms come and go in your tenure within the comedy world.
Keyword underground. I'm the boom for what like I said, I have the formula. When I created Laugh Mob, okay, now I had already worked for the Motown of hip hop, okay, Def Jam. I come from Rush University,
Yeah.
okay. I literally come from a college, Def Jam, Rush. We built the landscape for hip hop. All right,
Yes.
whether you want to talk about music, comedy, fashion, whatever it was, I'm the first hip hop DJ. I'm the first DJ in a comedy room. I created that in the underground and brought that to Def Comedy Jam. Then you have Kid Capri, and the rest is history. But the
Yeah.
same thing with I'm doing stand up back in, or what was it, February 8th, 1985, my
Oh,
first comedy show. Okay, that I kind of like produced and wanted to see what it was all about. As 86, 87 came along, I'm already in this mix that led me to getting this job in 89, 90 at Def Jam Records, Russell Simmons, Dan Lathan. I'm thinking I'm working at Crush Groove, my brother. You hear me? This is crazy. Then all of a sudden they want to do this TV thing, and I'm already in that mix. Ari Spears just did something on Vlad I saw recently talking about me and how it really went down. And it really went down like this, but I keep recreating, and all Laugh Mob has been for the acronym is more of Bob's best. What
hmm.
is Bob's best? I have It's crazy. We could keep talking, man, about whatever you want to talk about. But when I tell you from Dion Cole to Cedric the Entertainer to Bill Bellamy to JB Smooth to Cheryl Underwood, nobody knew these folks. And that's why I have the same thing about to happen again. You hear what I'm saying, Darren? Really?
Yeah,
Happen. I
absolutely.
love this opportunity to do it again. The pandemic helped me. Seriously.
Yeah, I think that the pandemic made stand up better and worse at the same time. Whenever you watch somebody doing the Zoom based comedy or the crowdless comedy, that was the worst. It did not
Yeah.
age well, but at the same time, it
Nor
gave
do I don't care about how many followers you have neither. I want to make sitcoms. I want to make new rush hours with my new cats. You know what I'm saying? The new Fridays. So yeah.
yeah. And the positive side to the pandemic with comedies, it gave a lot of people time to work on their craft, also learn how to build their own internet followings through YouTube, because that's really all they could do, launch their podcast. So I think that the good got better and the worse just got much, much worse.
But you still have to know how to bring it to this live stage. Because people want to see you now. They done watched you for whatever it was, a year and a half or whatever online. Some people got it, some people didn't. But if you did get it, I want to see you. So now let's go take it to the stage like a Parliament Funkadelic album. You know what I
Exactly.
mean? You know?
Exactly. So again, you've not stopped working, you've not stopped pushing the ball forward. Union Time to Laugh, how far does that concept go back? How long did it take from launching it to knowing that December 5th it's happening?
Well, actually, it's going to be December 19th now.
Okay.
December 19th, because I mean, it's a work in progress, you know what you say, pre-production. So starting today, I'm actually doing my draft. The same way on April, on August the 1st. See, I'm good with dates if they mean something. And I know that on August the 5th, 1991, I began my Def Comedy Jam draft. Okay. And my number one pick came out of Chicago by way of Atlanta, because this was the first time I saw him. And he was driving a Wonder Bread truck at the time.
Is
His
this
name was
Cedric?
his
Oh,
name
Bernie.
was Bernard. His name was Bernard McCullough.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, yeah.
So that's what's happening today. I'm getting ready to start this 8-week series. Okay, before we, go into taking it into, like I said, the Don Cornelius approach. I'm gonna start it today, and what I'm doing is I'm showcasing comedians from the DMV, because I've been able to go around the country. I was watching Shannon Sharp interview JB Smoove, right? Then I'm watching T.I., who's doing comedy now. I was watching
He
T.I.
is?
interview. He was interviewing Chris Tucker, and everybody's talking about the golden age, or they want to call the 90s, with that boom, like you're saying. It went from the 80s to nothing, to then the 90s to nothing. And then, so they're talking about all of it. And what no one realizes is I didn't go to Hollywood or New York. I knew what was there. I go into the trenches. You know what I'm saying? And then I have my combines, just like it's basketball or football. And then I break it all down to my drafts. So that's pretty much what I'm getting ready to do, because I had went back on, I did the same thing I did in 1991. I did it in 2021. It was Bob Sumner's Back to Basics Comedy Showcases. And I started in Atlanta in June, and I finished up in LA in November. And I looked at over 700 comedians, and I broke it down to 70. No different than, like, right now I'm getting ready to deliver, besides what I'm doing within DC, I'm getting ready to deliver a whole national scope of the next rising stars of comedy, because I know how to do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. There is a
Yep.
track record of what, 32 years or so.
Is it
Just
that long? Is it? I mean, I'm just 35. Let me think. Yeah, I've been doing it for years.
well,
Yeah.
I have two quick questions and then I'll let you go because you've been
No,
generous with your time.
we all
And
good, man.
well, first one is you got your start working for the Def Jam record label.
Yeah,
I have the feeling that we, the fans, and I'm from the town where Rick Rubin grew up,
it
but
is.
we don't ever see him here. But long story short, but I have the feeling that the history of Def Jam that we, the fans, know is not really what happened at Def Jam. And I say that because watching Vlad's interview, you mentioned Vlad before, with the other Dr. Dre, the Long Island Dr. Dre, he
Oh,
totally
yeah.
contradicts everything we've ever heard about, for example, who gave Aerosmith, Run DMC, that collaboration's birth happen, who made that happen, who the first artist was, etc. Am I wrong to feel that what we know about Def Jam is not really what happened at Def Jam?
Well, the thing is, what you know about Bob Sumner is not what happened to Def Comedy Jam. You know what I mean? There's always going to be the truth, and then people will make fabrication, out of things. And I'm gonna say this to you, and I'm gonna say this to you, and just and really make it as straight as I can. When I came to Def Jam, they had already went through the Beastie Boy era, like
Yeah.
that Slick Rick, like that one era. Then it was time for the next era, and it came into a way where there was a movie that had just been released by Spike called Do the Right Thing.
Hmm.
That's when I came on board. And the single on the Do the Right Thing soundtrack
Fight the
was
Power.
Fight
Yeah.
the Power. You know what I mean? So I came there, and then I never forget when Todd came into my office and said that he was back. And he slammed this cassette on my desk and said, "Put this in." And it was a round-the-way girl on one side and booming system on the other side, and that was Mama Said Knock You Out. So that was the beginning of my era because I was assistant to the president at the time. So I knew, you know, the ins and outs of the label, everything that was happening over at Rush as well. But in terms of everything like what you're talking about right now, I'm just a fan of the game. Like I said, I couldn't believe I was working at Crush Group. You know what I'm saying? That's how it felt. So, I mean, you could ask me some other things, but things that don't really know, I can only go by what others are saying. So
You
there
don't
you have it.
speak out of turn. You're a good guy, Bob.
You'll never see me do that at all, man, because I even see people who floss now, and I remember how I got them their job. You know what I mean? But they would never, or maybe they will tell somebody if I'm sitting there because there's nothing you can say, but there's always somebody that knows the truth. There's always somebody that knows the truth. You know what I mean?
And then the last question I have for you is, what was the stand-up album or stand-up performer that made you love stand-up and go, this is what I'm doing?
Okay. During the pandemic, during the pandemic, I was getting called in to do, because I guess people didn't have things to do, whatever. So I got called in to do a few interviews. Like they was masking me up, having me test out and everything.
Yeah.
So my agent, I had him check out, somebody had caught me on DM, right? And some people, you don't even know what they're talking about. So I said, follow up on this, right? And it was from Spring Hill Entertainment, LeBron James and Maverick Carter, right? They wanted me to come in to do this interview for a CNN project that they was working on, right? So I'm in there, and this question was asked, okay? And this show is aired already on CNN, but
Right.
when the question was asked, right? They asked me, and I was like, well, as a kid, I used to always go to the Apollo Theater, like I, mentioned. And there was a lady named Jackie Moms Mabley.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
I've and I watched her over 20 times in my life. And that was it. So when I tell you that I moved into 1985 doing comedy shows and, from there to this, that was the bug. Seeing a young Richard Pryor, a Pigmeat Markham, a duo like Slappy White and Nipsey Russell. I saw all of that as a kid. So that's where the bug came. And then when I started working with Bill Bellamy, Bill and I was like a team. You know what I mean? I would handle it was like, no different than when you hear about Rick and Russell. You know what I mean? And how that whole thing came about from Russell just being out here having parties and stuff to now let's do this label situation, Rick doing what he doing. I know how that all came about. And that's kind of like what made me go from when nothing was happening and with the comedy situation, I just put on my thinking cap, created Laugh Mob, went to LA, even though LA wasn't a place. Only time I ever went there was to do shows and stuff. But I said, I have to really let people know that there is somebody else that made all this happen, and here you have it. The myth, which I was a myth.
So it started off with Moms Mabley, Pryor,
Mom's,
Rudy Ray Moore, we talked about earlier.
well, yeah, definitely Rudy and or Wild Man Steve. One of my highlights on Def Comedy Jam was to be able to put Rudy and Wild Man Steve on the show, and most definitely I can't leave out my man Paul Mooney.
Oh yeah.
And I really was hoping that we could do a tribute to Pryor before he passed away, but he wasn't traveling, But that's the whole thing with me, bruh. I love what I do, and I like to think that I do it pretty well, and I have an opportunity now to showcase so many more to America and most definitely at the Union Time to Laugh.
Well, the key is I'm going to say thank you yet again for the decades of great comedy that you've put upon this earth, which led to other great comedy and projects. I'm looking forward to these new projects that you have coming out. You
Thank
seem
you.
very hard to keep up with, very hard to keep up with. And that's a compliment because you get the vibe that IMDb is not showing everything that you're working on. That you use the sports analogy. You said, being a sports guy, I'm saying batting average. You know that not every project goes, so you probably have 2 or 3 in the hopper for everyone that does.
You
So
know, I see people claim me for doing projects that I really didn't work on. You know, that's the other part. I see sometimes people say you did this, that, and the other, and I didn't do it, but I guess, and I always say, if you can't get 100% of me, you're not going to get 98. You know, I don't want to give you 98. I want to give you 100. But some people think that that little bit of whatever they thought that was is enough to put my name on it. And I'm, you know, checks come with names, don't they? But I just wanted to say, if there is anybody that are serious about whatever it is that they think I might be able to help them with, feel free, because networking is everything. You know what I'm saying? And if they, you know, say they heard me with Darren, you know, it's like cool. And I'm Bob.Sumner on Instagram, you know, very
Sumner on
simple.
Instagram. Not
Yeah.
Gordon.Sumner, Bob.
Not no, even though I definitely like the police. I love the police. Now I mean the police, you know, the band, the police.
Oh, I knew what you meant. The Andy
Oh, okay.
Summers.
Paltrocast.